A mother elephant in Kenya walks across the dry savanna with two friends, suffering from painful poison-tipped arrows daily. Poachers shot the giant creatures for their valuable ivory, leaving them bleeding and in desperate need of urgent medical help. These wild elephants had every evolutionary reason to avoid anything resembling a human being for the rest of their lives. Instead, they walked directly toward a local wildlife rescue center, seeking urgent assistance from the very species that harmed them. One of the elephants had previously mated with former orphans who were successfully raised and released by this rescue facility. This connection allowed the elephant to associate this specific human sanctuary with comfort and help rather than danger or pain. This remarkable story of survival is well documented, photographed, and carefully recorded by the local wildlife rescue organization in Kenya. It highlights one of the strangest and most unsettling facts about how wild animals interact with humans during extreme crises. Humans are statistically and measurably the single most dangerous predator to walk the dry surface of this planet for millennia. Yet, when everything goes wrong, some wild creatures choose to run directly toward us instead of seeking their own kind. Why would a wild dolphin, a raven, or a fox decide that we are exactly the right creature to help them? The answer involves rigorous science, intense academic debates, and a handful of documented cases that sound like old campfire folklore. Let us begin with the most scientifically solid example of wild animal cooperation ever published in a highly prestigious journal. It involves the greater honeyguide, a wild bird across sub-Saharan Africa that recruits humans as active and functional hunting partners. This small bird loves beeswax and bee larvae, but it cannot break into a heavily defended beehive on its own. Wild bees are extremely dangerous, and their hidden hives are heavily guarded by thousands of stinging insects in the bush. Humans, on the other hand, possess tools and fire to easily subdue bees and extract honey safely from the nests. But humans are terrible at locating where the hidden beehives are located inside the vast and difficult-to-search forests. The clever honeyguide bird solves both problems at once, creating a beautifully efficient division of labor with local honey hunters. It finds the hive, flies toward a human, chirps loudly, and physically guides the hunter directly to the hidden nest. The human honey hunter uses smoke to quiet the bees, extracts the honey, and leaves behind the wax for the bird. In 2016, researchers experimentally tested this unique relationship, publishing their remarkable findings in the famous journal named Science. They discovered that honeyguides respond strongly to a specific vocal call passed down through generations of local human honey hunters. Playing this specific call doubled the overall probability of successfully finding a bee nest with the wild bird's active guidance. The bird was not simply reacting to noise. It attached real functional meaning to this one specific human cooperative signal. This sound tells the bird that a human wants to cooperate, making the effort worth the honeyguide's time and energy. This is one of the only known examples of a wild animal engaging in active, mutually beneficial communication with humans. The bird is not trained with treats in captivity. It is a completely free creature, acting out of evolutionary benefit. It has developed a functioning communication channel with humans, completely independent of any prior domestication or training by our species. This raises a difficult cognitive question. What is actually happening inside the brain of an animal asking for human help? Does the animal genuinely understand that humans possess the specific ability to solve its complex and dangerous physical problem? Or is a much simpler cognitive mechanism operating underneath the surface, merely looking like sophisticated understanding from the outside? Researchers distinguish between a few different explanations, and they do not all require the same level of complex thought. The most basic explanation is learned association, where an animal has previously experienced humans doing something helpful or comforting. It generalizes that single past experience to future moments of high distress, creating a simple and reinforced behavioral link. This basic mechanism does not require the animal to understand human intentions, thoughts, or separate minds at all in life. A more sophisticated explanation requires a basic theory of mind, some understanding that humans have separate goals and abilities. This is a much higher cognitive bar, and scientists actively debate how many non-human species actually clear this level. The clearest evidence of referential communication comes from dogs, which have been studied using mobile eye tracking technology under laboratory conditions. Dogs respond much more strongly to a combination of pointing and direct eye gaze than they do to random movements. When a human points while looking directly at a dog, the animal tracks the referenced object with sustained attention. This shows that the dog interprets the human's gesture as a deliberate, meaningful signal pointing towards something in the environment. This same basic cognitive skill may explain what happens when a wild animal decides to approach a human in distress. If an animal has even a basic sense that humans act purposefully, approaching us becomes a calculated and intelligent strategy. Let us look at some individual cases, because the sheer variety of these documented stories is genuinely fascinating to study. A bottlenose dolphin off the coast of Hawaii approached a group of scuba divers, swimming in a very awkward manner. The diving instructor initially followed standard wildlife guidelines of not interfering with wild marine animals in their natural habitat. But the dolphin's behavior was persistent, repeatedly circling back to the divers rather than swimming away into the deep ocean. It became clear that something was wrong, as a sharp fish hook was caught in the dolphin's mouth area. A long fishing line was also wrapped tightly around its body, severely restricting its ability to swim and breathe properly. The diver worked carefully and patiently to remove the hook and cut away the tangled line under the water. When the task was finished, the dolphin did not immediately swim away, as you might expect a wild creature to. Instead, it surfaced for a quick breath and came back, facing the diver directly in a gesture of clear acknowledgement. In another case, a glossy black raven perched on a wooden fence outside a rural house, squawking loudly for hours. When a human went outside to investigate, they found the bird had 4 sharp porcupine quills embedded in its face. The quills were causing significant pain and distress, making it impossible for the raven to fly or feed itself. The wild bird allowed a complete human stranger to come close enough to physically pull out all 4 painful quills. This act required the raven to tolerate close human contact, overriding its natural survival instincts to flee from danger. By standing completely still, the raven showed a temporary trust in the human's ability to relieve its physical suffering. This story shows how even birds can make a calculated decision to seek human help when facing a painful crisis. In India, a young elephant calf fell into a deep, man-made watering hole and could not climb back out. The mother elephant, in escalating distress, approached a nearby road and made repeated, urgent gestures toward passing human vehicles. She refused to leave the area, eventually leading a group of people back to the watering hole to help her. The humans quickly organized a rescue effort and safely pulled the trapped elephant calf back up to solid ground. Off the coast of Sydney, a southern right whale was entangled in a heavy mass of plastic garbage and ropes. The whale approached a small boat, repeatedly surfacing alongside it until a teenager aboard pulled the tangled debris free. The giant creature floated calmly near the boat, allowing the humans to work without showing any signs of aggression. A similarly remarkable case involved a massive whale shark off the coast of Australia that approached a small fishing vessel. The whale shark floated completely still for 20 minutes, while a diver carefully cut a tight rope from its body. This giant creature, the size of a school bus, remained motionless during what was functionally a painful veterinary procedure. It did not struggle or try to swim away, showing a remarkable patience while the human worked to free it. In Russia, a wild red fox was filmed wandering directly up to a group of men in the forest. The fox's head was completely stuck inside a clear glass jar, leaving it unable to eat, drink, or see. It stood quietly in front of the men until one of them pulled the glass jar off its head successfully. The freed fox paused briefly to look back at the men before trotting off happily into the deep green forest. Wildlife rehabilitators who spend their careers working with injured animals report this help-seeking behavior across many different species. Even predatory animals like coyotes, wolves, and bears have been documented approaching humans for assistance during acute physical crises. These field animals normally maintain a safe distance from humans, showing a natural fear of our presence under ordinary circumstances. But during a moment of extreme distress, their normal day to day avoidance behavior is temporarily replaced by a calculated approach. In Alaska, four young wild deer were struggling to swim across the freezing, icy waters of a dangerous passage. Spotting a boat in the distance, all four animals swam directly and deliberately toward it to escape the freezing water. The fishermen pulled the shivering deer aboard, allowing them to rest and warm up before releasing them on land. Under normal conditions, a wild deer would never approach a boat full of unfamiliar human primates in the water. But when the alternative is certain death, the underlying behavioral calculation shifts dramatically and immediately for the animal. The intense fear response that usually keeps deer away is completely overridden by a stronger and more urgent survival drive. This pattern suggests that an animal's fear of humans is not a fixed, unbreakable rule etched into its brain. It is a default setting carefully calibrated by evolution, but one that can be overridden in desperate situations. When the risk of approaching a human is smaller than the risk of doing nothing, the default setting changes. This calculation allows the animal to take a chance on the most dangerous predator on Earth to save itself. There is also a longer, evolutionary angle to consider, where cooperation with humans becomes a genetically inherited survival strategy. Some wild species carry a generationally inherited history with humans, built on repeatedly successful cooperative outcomes across many recent years. The honeyguide bird is the clearest example of this evolutionary cooperation, operating on a species-wide scale rather than an individual. It is not that each bird consciously reasons through the decision to find a human helper during the forest hunt. The cooperative behavior itself has proved so useful over generations that it became a stable feature of the wild species. A similar, less formal process may be happening with highly intelligent animals like elephants, which possess long-term social memories today. An elephant herd that has had positive experiences with a conservation sanctuary can pass this knowledge down to offspring. This socially transmitted information allows younger elephants to associate specific human sanctuaries with safety rather than danger or pain. This is a highly specific, conditional exception carved out from a general, well-warranted weariness toward humans as a whole. We must be scientifically honest about the limits of what we can claim regarding an animal's inner thoughts. We cannot directly ask a dolphin or an elephant about its mental state when it chooses to approach us. Scientists are appropriately cautious, avoiding the projection of complex human emotions onto what might be simpler biological behaviors. An animal in extreme distress might simply be drawn to relative stillness or novel structures in its changing environment. It may approach out of sheer exhaustion rather than a sophisticated understanding of human technology or helpful personal intentions. But the Honeyguide experiment proves that wild animals are capable of attaching real meaning to specific human cooperative signals. Once we accept that one species can do this, the broader pattern of animals seeking help becomes scientifically plausible. Seeking help may be a precise evolutionary mutualism or an individual animal's learned association with a specific safe place. In the most desperate cases, it is a calculated gamble taken when all other natural survival options have failed. This pattern remains remarkably consistent across species that share almost nothing in common with each other in the wild. Birds, mammals, and giant marine creatures separated by millions of years of evolution occasionally make the exact same decision. When everything else fails and the pain becomes too much, some animals choose to walk directly toward their predator. They override their deepest survival instincts to seek relief from the species most responsible for their long-term evolutionary displacement. By examining these encounters, we gain a deeper appreciation for the complex cognitive abilities of the diverse animal kingdom. It reminds us that our relationship with the natural world is not just defined by conflict and environmental destruction. Under the right conditions, Humans can act as healers and collaborators, helping wild creatures survive their most difficult moments. This interspecies connection highlights the thin line between fear and trust in the shared history of our planet's life. As humans continue to shape the global environment, preserving these fragile connections of trust becomes more important than ever. We must protect the wild spaces and the species that, against all odds, occasionally look to us for survival. Their willingness to seek our help is a powerful reminder of our responsibility toward the diverse life on Earth. Thank you for watching this detailed animated exploration of animal cooperation and intelligence on the Nico Explains channel. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts about these remarkable animal encounters below.